This is Talking Law on Radio 97 with Despina Priala from Priala Legal. And if you have a question that you would like answered on the radio, Despina more than happy to do that for you. Just pop it in an email and you can send it to us at breakfast97 at superradionetwork.com.au. That's breakfast97 at superradionetwork.com.au.
And making headlines last week and heading into this week, Queensland unit dwellers could be barred from smoking on balconies. A recent court case, and one unit dweller was barred from this, but is it possible for all of Queensland in their apartments to be barred from smoking altogether? Despina, what is your take on this case?
Yes, a very interesting case. I suppose you can call it a landmark decision because we have not had an adjudicator's decision previously made, to my knowledge, where someone has been banned from smoking in their apartment within a body corporate. And of course, this raises issues of body corporate laws within body corporate communities. So you could call it a landmark decision, but does it mean that in the future that bodies corporate will be able to just put a complete ban on people smoking within their units? I don't think so, unless the laws will allow that. So it's an interesting case, and I thought we'd raise it this morning because it's in the social media and other publications out there, and people will need to understand, well, what does that mean for them if they are a smoker, or if they're not a smoker and they have a neighbour in a building that smokes, and what can they do about it?
Yep, and especially if they're heavy smokers and outside, because of course this particular case, they were on their balcony. So I'm wondering too, we might have a look at this, the difference between, say, smoking inside your unit and smoking on the balcony. So therefore, on the outside of the unit. So would there be a difference there as well?
That's right. So let's go back a bit and talk about why there hasn't been previous decisions along these lines. And what I can say, or safely say, is that in the past, you see, adjudicators have been a little bit reluctant to make these types of decisions because it does affect the way that you can lawfully use your property in a community title scheme, in a body corporate. And within your own apartment, you are entitled to use that apartment and unit in a reasonable way, but the way that you see fit. It is your apartment after all. So you can't just put complete bans on how people are to use their own apartment within a body corporate. However, there are other bylaws that people have to abide by, and that is that they have to conduct themselves and use their apartments in a way that doesn't cause a nuisance, or in this case, a nuisance and a hazard perhaps to other people within the body corporate. And this is exactly what happened here. So this particular case, obviously each case is determined on its own individual facts and merits, like I've always said, and this case is no different, but particularly it's relevant here because this case showed that the person, the smoker, was on the 8th floor, and the person who complained was on the 9th floor, just above. And the smoker was an actual chain smoker apparently, and the smoking from that person was relentless and unbearable, as the complainant described in the case. Meaning this person was a chain smoker, they would be constantly smoking on the balcony, and the smoke apparently was wafting up to the neighbour above them, where that person then was unable to use their own balcony within their own apartment. So therefore it affected their use and enjoyment of their own apartment and their own space.
How do you even prove something like that? Would they have to get video footage of this smoke wafting up?
Exactly, and that was the issue prior to this case, and this is called the Artique case, if anyone's interested in reading it, and it was involving a Surfers Paradise apartment building. So that was the very reason why there's been very few cases, or no cases actually, on this point, because to try and prove the volume or frequency of smoking and how it would interfere with your use and enjoyment and your life as a unit occupier always was difficult. But obviously in this case, they were able to do that. And I think also it might have had something to do with changes over the years with what the Department of Health in Australia has advised about passive smoking.
Yeah,
Because
of course.
yes, because the person who lived above obviously wasn't a smoker, but they were saying, look, this is passive smoking. This is coming into me in my personal space. It's affecting me as a person. And I think you'll find that the Australian Government Department of Health has said over the years that there is now no safe level of passive smoking. You see, and I think that would have made a difference as well. But look, this case may or may not open the door for future complainants. And they certainly, if someone was in the same position or similar position to this particular case, they would certainly be able to rely on this case to argue that, look, this exposure to drifting smoke, as it was, is a hazard and a nuisance to me within the building. But yes, it'll always turn on, well, you're going to have to prove that and establish that that's actually happening.
Well, in this case, of course, we're talking about cigarette smoke, but of course there's, marijuana smoke.
Or the vapes.
Yeah, the
the kids
vaping.
love lately.
There's even cooking smells. If you cook a lot of cabbage or something, really strong smell.
That smells like fart.
I've smelled it. I've smelled it where I live. So if you do a lot of cooking with strong smelling ingredients, then of course it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. And I think what you might find before any changes to the actual legislation, in this particular case, the building apparently already had a bylaw which assisted them, which says that it required people to not smoke in a way that caused a nuisance. So some buildings, particularly maybe the older ones, where the bylaws haven't been changed, where perhaps from a time where smoking was acceptable and where now it's not, you might find that the bylaws may need to be reviewed, where if there isn't a bylaw that says exactly that, they might have to incorporate a bylaw at least to say, well, we want a bylaw that says, look, you can't smoke in a way that causes a nuisance to other people within the building.
Sure. But long story short from this case, it could open the floodgates a little bit, but as of right now, people are able to still smoke in Queensland in their apartments. There's no rule against that.
As long as you're not causing a nuisance or a hazard, you see, to other people within the building. And that's what people will have to be careful about. And, of course, subject to any changes in Australia about smoking in the future, it's a space to watch, isn't it?
Very true. Great advice there. And information from Despina Priala from boutique law firm Priala Legal. And if people want to get in touch with you directly, Despina, like they have been lately, where can they go?
Yes, so they can phone the office 55291 294, or they can email info@prialalegal.com.au, or certainly they can message me on Facebook or LinkedIn. That's where I post all of our segments, and on YouTube, of course, where all the segments are uploaded every week.
Yes, under Priala Legal, Priala. Thank you so much again, Despina. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
Great. See you then, guys.